What he's telling me is impossible. Make him spit out the candy and throw the rest away. James appears to be fine. Maybe I'm just overreacting. After all, he could have gotten it from Tom or Linda from next door, or Mr. Walker down the street. Either way, I'm going to have to keep a close eye on James. That night I put James to bed as usual and decided to go to bed early myself. Suddenly I was woken by a loud bang coming from the kitchen. I sprung out of bed and hurried down the stairs. When I got to the kitchen, I was horrified. Everything on the counters had been thrown to the floor, and our dog Fido hung dead from the light fixture. His stomach was cut open and stuffed with candy, same type that James was eating earlier that day. My shock was quickly broken by a sharp scream coming from James's room, followed by loud crashes. I suddenly grabbed the knife from the drawer and moved upstairs with the speed that only a father whose child in danger could have. I burst through the door and flicked on the lights. Everything in the room was knocked over and tossed on the floor. My poor son was in bed, crying and shaking in fear. A pool of urine stained the sheets. I scooped up my child up and ran out of the house and went next door to Tom and Linda's house. Luckily, they were still awake. They let me use their phone and I called the police. It didn't take them long to arrive, and I explained what had happened. They looked at me as if I were crazy. They searched the house, but all they found was a dead dog and 2 trashed rooms. The officer told me that someone had probably gone into the house and done this right before making a quick escape when they heard me coming down the stairs. I knew it wasn't true. All the doors were locked and all of the windows were open. Whatever it was in my house. It didn't come from outside. The next day, James stayed inside. I didn't want him to leave my sight. Went into the garage and found his old baby monitor set up in his room. If anything comes into his room tonight, I was going to be able to hear it. I went to the kitchen and grabbed the largest knife from the drawer and put it on my nightstand. Imaginary friend or not, I'm not letting anything hurt my little boy. Soon enough night came. I put James to bed. He was afraid, but I promised him that I wasn't going to let anything happen to him. I tucked him in, gave him a kiss, and turned out the night light. Before closing the door, I whispered to him, "Good night, James. I love you." I tried to stay up as long as I could, but after a few hours, I felt myself drifting off. My baby would be safe for the night, and I needed sleep. Just as I laid my head on the pillow, I heard soft noises coming from the baby monitor. I put on my nightstand. At first it sounded like interference, like the kind a radio would make. Then it turned into a soft moan. Was James asleep? Then I heard it. The laugh of my nightmare. The horrible laugh. I sprung from the bed, grabbed the knife from under my pillow. I rushed over to James's room and creaked the door open. I tried the light switch, but it wouldn't come on. I took a step in, and I could feel the warm, thick liquid on my feet. Suddenly, James' nightlight came on, and I could see the absolute horror laid in front of me. James's body was nailed to the wall. Nails pierced through his hands and his feet. His chest was cut open wide, and his organs hung down on the floor. His eyes and tongue had been removed, along with most of his teeth. I was disgusted. I could hardly believe this was my baby boy. Then I heard it. The soft, desperate moan. James was still alive. My baby. My poor baby. In so much pain. Barely clinging to life. I ran across the room and vomited on the floor, but my sicknesses were interrupted by a horrible cackling coming from behind me. I spun around while still wiping bile from my mouth. Then out of the shadows emerged the fiend responsible for this horror, Laughing Jack. His ghost white skin and matted black hair hung down on his shoulders. He had piercing white eyes, surrounded by dark black rings. His twisted smile revealed a row of sharp, jagged teeth, and his skin didn't look like skin at all. It almost looked like rubber or plastic. He He wore a patchy black and white clown outfit with striped sleeve and socks. His body itself was grotesque, his long arms hanging down past his waist, and the way he was poised made him almost look boneless, like a rag doll. He let out a sickening laugh, as if to let me know he was pleased with my reaction to his work. Then he turned around slowly in front of James and began to laugh even more at the horrific sight he has laid out. That was enough to shake me from my terror. I snapped, "Get away from him, you bastard!" I rushed at the monster, raising the knife above my head, and stabbed down at him. But as soon as the knife touched him, he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. The knife passed right through and pierced James' still beating heart, splashing the warm blood on my face. No! What have I done? My baby! I killed my baby! I immediately fell to my knees. I could hear sirens in the distance growing louder. My boy! My sweet boy! I promised Daddy would protect you, but I failed. I'm sorry, James. I'm so sorry. The police soon arrived to find me in front of my son, still wielding the knife covered in my baby's blood. The trial was short. Insanity. I was placed in a Firopolis house for the criminally insane, where I have been for the past 2 years. It's not so bad here. The only reason I wake up now is because someone is playing Pop Goes Weasel outside my window. I'll talk to the orderlies in the morning. Just because your child may have an imaginary friend does not mean that they are safe from the horrors that this friend may produce. You are welcome.